Professor Kotabe is a professor at the University. He's very close to several of our colleagues, George Camille and myself. He's very close to Professor Kotabe at International Business Studies, and I had the privilege to share the board of AIB with Professor Kotabe. And Professor Kotabe combines very different competencies in regards to his teaching abilities, his teaching skills, with his research and administrative skills as well. And today, he proposed a very challenging topic, and I felt very interested to hear more about a comparison of a low-tech Apple and a high-tech Sony. So for us, it will be a very interesting topic. And so you are very welcome, Mike, and willing to hear you and to understand your comparison between.
Thank you very much, Marisa. How shall I phrase this? I tried to, well, probably, how many, well, I know most of your faculty members, how many of you are PhD students? Okay, some of you are PhD
Master.
faculty. Probably this represents my research style. I usually try to find an interesting phenomenon, seemingly opposite of common sense. And it sounds like it. Opposite of common sense. And then, to me, that the data don't tell a lie. I mean, data, unless you cook the data available from public sources, reputable sources, don't tell a lie. And so looking at the data, why so? That's a theorization, that's academic work. And I usually start with interesting phenomena and try to make sense out of it. And I'm not really a theoretician. I usually use somebody else's theory. You can always use somebody else's theory to describe what's going on. Even the phenomenon that you're observing is seemingly opposite of common sense. And so I'm probably sharing with you my own research style in the last 30 years. And well, today, obviously, very controversial title. And somehow, maybe because it's controversial, I started talking about this subject about 2 years ago on the data I have. And I got invited to the various governments that are interested in national level technology skill set. And countries like Taiwan, lo and behold, New Zealand, have been very much interested in what I have to say. And technically, I'm a marketing, international marketing professor. I'm more into international business, and my background is economics and law, and I'm a lawyer too. So I'm all over the map. And then I realized that looking at this data, something usually management researchers don't look at. That's a legal implications of what firms do. And I go to that point. I have here. Conclusions first. Way back when, 90s and 80s, and probably early 90s, so-called source of competitive advantage. What gives you competitive advantage? Purely from the economist's point of view, competitive advantage is nothing more than temporary monopoly. Monopoly, we hope to be long temporary, not one day temporary. And theoretically, we believe that technology investment you make, for more R&D investment you make, more technologically advanced you are, competitive advantage you would have. And that more R&D investment, more new product, the better. And And what's happening today is any product, any technology is so shortened, maybe 2 months instead of 5 years, 10 years in the past. So if you invested so much money in developing something, and in 2 years' time you lose virtual monopoly period or competitive advantage, is it really worth investing so much money in your R&D? And so that brings us back to the opposite argument. Wouldn't you be better off being low-tech and then just use somebody else's technology instead? And one good example, which all of you can recognize, is indeed Apple. Apple was all low-tech when they introduced all the most high-tech product you could ever imagine: iPhone, iPad, iPhone. And when the point is, I'll show you all the statistics. But all the excellent high-tech, seemingly high-tech products that Apple produced when it was low-tech, just like Walmart. If you think American Walmart retail store is high-tech, then Apple is high-tech. But if you think it's low-tech, then Apple is equally low-tech. So how could such a low-tech company outcompete seemingly high-tech Sony and Samsung and so on and so forth? Anyway, and then the conclusion is probably investing in R&D heavily wouldn't make much sense for future competitive advantage. Anyway, this is an old statistic. I'm sure all of you recognize Michael Kotabe. Michael Kotabe and the MIT colleague Stern, commissioned by the US government. It was 1999, almost 2 decades ago, to see government seriously concerned or at least interested in how United States long-term competitive advantage would play out in a competitive world. So the Michael Kotabe, as academics, Michael Kotabe and Scott Stern used the US patent data. Patent is not everything, but patent may be a good indicator of innovative capacity. So they looked at the US patents held by not only US firms, but also Japanese, Finnish, so on, so all the way year by year, and then applied some sort of time series analysis. But anyway, it's an old report, but it gives you some interesting idea. And this is a summary of the published report, 34 and 35, if you want to read it. To measure what we call innovativeness at the national level, when you use patent data, if you use patent data, you know how to manage the data. The number of patents is easy to quantify, literal number. Quality is a little bit difficult. So just like academic papers, more citations you get, the better. Well, actually better. So on that assumption, they use the number of back quotations of each of those patents to measure quality, well, quantifying the quality of a patent, and plus the pure number. And combining those, they came up quantity of what we call amount of technology or firms from each of these countries have developed every year over the years in the US. So, according to them, what they really want that with US firms well, clearly were taking advantage of the existing stock of without replenishing for the future. So overall, their conclusion is U.S. competitiveness will decline. and then using time series analysis, 2005, USA, well, of course, 2005 is way back when, but as of 1999, US competitiveness was expected to decline. And now, whether it's correct or wrong, that's not the point, but that was their prediction. Now, what caught me on this is not about the US. As a Japanese myself, I was curious about it. Now, I want you to look at it in a proper time frame. Mid to 99, actually, even to this day. As you know, long-term Japanese recession started, and ever since it's been kind of recession period. So mid 1995, somewhere here, this is when Japan went into a huge recession. At least 10 years, even to the same. If the whole country is in a recession, and of course companies have to survive, Japanese companies, what would you have to do? Well, if you're the president, you will think about cutting down on research and development because it doesn't give you immediate benefit next day. And if you're a marketer, you will think of cutting down on advertising spending. So those are the little things you have to cut down on. And a Japanese company, they don't lay off people. In the United States, the first thing they do is restructure, meaning fire people. In Japan, they don't do that. So they can't reduce expenses or costs by laying off people because they can't or they don't. So clearly, R&D should be one of those that needed to be cut down on. But the reality is, according to Mike Kotabe and Scott Stern, Japanese have been investing all the more in research and development and generating more patents in the US, quantity and quality-wise. And they even concluded, technologically, Japan has become #1, overtaking USA. So Porter concluded the future would belong to Japan. That was their conclusion. And actually proved very wrong. But, well, not because of the amount of technology, but not having technology turns out to be better. But let me get to it. And this is another way. Since Porter or anyone else had replicated their study beyond 1999, so we don't have the actual continuation of their study. So let's look at some of the statistics readily available from various sources. And this is the OECD data. And if you access this site, actually you can pick out any country you want, up to 4 or 5. I wanted to show Brazil. Unfortunately, OECD data doesn't include Brazil, but there was Mexico, in the data set. But it doesn't show any more than 5, so I couldn't show it. Mexico is like this. Okay. So I don't know how tech Mexico is compared to Brazil. But in any case, what it shows is historically, if you look at Korea, that's outrageously crazy, so-called Samsung effect. But outside of Korea in recent times, historically, since actually if you go back to around 1980, Japan as a nation allocated the highest percentage of their GDP to research and development. And so whatever Japan is this. Okay. And US usually came slightly below Japan. And if you look at Germany, it's somewhere below or above below US, above US. And the China, as you can see, since 2001 or so, started to invest significantly. But at this point, what I want you to focus on, since I'll be talking about Apple and Sony, let's focus on Japan and the US. So historically, at least ever since so-called Japanese management style became popular in the 70s and 80s and 90s, clearly Japanese have been investing, relative to the size of their economy, more on R&D. This doesn't include military R&D, just commercial R&D. So clearly, this is another indication Japan has been consistently tech, or higher tech than the US. And this is another way. How many patents are in force in various countries? United States here. The bottom one is so-called domestic, and upper part is foreign patents in the United States. So if you look at the total number of patents in the United States, just about half, actually a little more than half of them are by foreign companies. You know, Japanese, Italian, Brazilian, so on and so forth. So USA, if you focus on domestic part about this. Now, unfortunately, starting in 2016, Japan and Korea and Germany stopped separating domestic and foreign patents. And if you look at the Japan patent, 2015, going back, historically, 85% are domestic, 15% foreign. So 2016, even though we don't know the separation, but it would be somewhere. So clearly, even from that, you can see in terms of not quality, we can't speak on quality, in terms of number of patents, Japanese domestic patents, number of Japanese domestic patents exceeded that of US domestic patents. So it tells us something consistently. Japanese seem awfully high tech, US and Japan. Oh, one more thing I want to mention. If you look at Europe in general, whether it's Germany, France, UK, actually European companies are not quite high-tech across the board. They seem to emphasize more prestige kind of aspect in marketing their products. But anyway, that's not our focus for now. Let's come down to the founder. So again, this is the list of top 30 patent holders in the United States in 2016. That's the latest statistic available today. And where are Sony and Apple? Well, I'm sorry. Let me show you Japanese first. I believe 9, if I counted. 8 or 9 out of 30.
I'm sorry.
What is Chinese? Turn off the light. Is it possible? Here. No. No. Yes.
Sorry to talk. It's a great time to have a nap.
Is it better?
Better.
Okay,
Much better.
All right. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is 8 or 9 out of 30 are still Japanese. And now, I have to go back. Without looking deeply into any one of these Japanese companies, just intuitively, I need your response on this. What do you think of Canon? Is it doing well? Your impression, or not doing well? I have no idea. No. Actually, Canon has been doing very well. Yeah, I mean, among the Japanese companies. What about Sony? Not quite. Not as see as it was in the second. Toshiba? The international trouble, big time trouble. But still, one of the most high-tech companies in the United States. What about Seiko Epson? It's a printer company. It's in financial trouble too. But still, one of the most high-tech companies in the world. Fujitsu, even worse. Nothing much to speak about anymore. And it's still one of the most in the world, in the US. Toyota, well, maybe we're actually doing very well. Necessarily so in Brazil, but rest of the world is still doing well. Ricoh, nothing much to brag about. Panasonic, refrigerators and washing machines. I mean, they have excellent products, but it's not sexy. It's not a good word, but not attractive, not exciting company. So those are Japanese high-tech companies. High-tech. Sony not doing well commercially compared to US firms like Apple. So let's focus on Sony and Apple to represent Japan side and the US side. Is Apple low-tech or Sony high-tech, or both opposite, Apple high-tech, Sony low-tech, or both high-tech, or both low-tech? So let's look at the data. To me, as I said, data, I didn't cook it up, I just cut and paste from the official document. You can see the only cut and paste is here. I took out the date and from IPO data, intellectual property organization based in Switzerland. The latest statistics, 2016, Sony and Apple. If Sony is high-tech, so is Apple. If Apple is high-tech, so is Sony. Now, 2016, Apple had not really introduced anything new other than slightly modified, what do you call it, iPhone 10. But let's go back in time to 2010. 2010. Where was Sony? Number 8. Actually, if you look at Sony rank every year, it's been somewhere between in the US, number 6 and number 12. It's going back and forth around that. So 2010, it was ranked in terms of number of patents, number 8. Apple, you have to look over 3 pages down, I guess. Number 55. Number 55, 2010. All right, little out of like 2000. As you can see, Sony, well, in those days, if you look at Japanese 2000, NEC where I worked, Canon, Sony, Toshiba, Fujitsu, Matsushita, Hitachi. Isn't that amazing? Things have changed, but anyway, there are still some high-tech companies from Japan. Number 6, Sony in 2000. Apple, 183. And actually, if you look at what's the company I used, Walmart, it's I believe 200. Right? So something is fishy here. So I summarized it, and I looked at the U.S. patent ranking of Apple and Sony, and actual R&D spending of those two companies. And 2000, as I showed you previously, Apple was ranked 187 in the US, and their R&D spending that year was $0.4 billion, compared to Sony of $4 billion. It's clearly 1/10, it's very small. And 2003, Apple was ranked 218, and they allocated $500 million. And Sony allocated, if you look at Sony, it's consistent, $4 billion, $5 billion all the way. And then their rankings are consistently 6, and 11th or 12th. And you can go back in time too. Of course, so, Apple didn't exist back. So this is supply side, input side. What about output? When did they introduce new product? So this is Apple. iPod was introduced in 2001, iPhone 2000, original one, 2007, iPad 2010, and unsuccessful Apple Watch 2015. Now, just looking at it, with a sample of one, academics all know we can't generalize about anything, but it could tell us something. When Apple was awfully low-tech, they introduced some of the most technologically advanced products on Earth. And when Apple became high-tech, Steve Jobs passed away in 2011, around that time. Since then, Tim Cook took over, and he wanted to make really high-tech company. And clearly, you can see their investment in R&D skyrocketed and outdoing Sony clearly when they introduced Apple Watch, and it has not been that successful. So it tells me something. When in the case of Apple, when Apple was low tech, they introduced some of the sexiest, most high-tech products. When it became high-tech like Sony, it became like Sony. Okay? And let's look at Sony's case. If you look at Sony, at least in the last, since 2000, actually, 1996 or so, the only product that they were making money from, only two items, PlayStation and cyber-shot camera. Nothing else. TVs, computers, everything, they're losing money. They were losing money. So the only money makers are PlayStation and cyber-shot camera. But just focus on PS2. It's consistent. They are introducing newer PS2s, and they have been allocating $4-5 billion consistently, year after year, and being ranked somewhere within top 10 in terms of US patent ranking. So I don't mean to change the subject. Let's look at something about intellectual property protection. Let me go back again. How could we explain low-tech company coming up with, including so many new technology items into most technologically advanced products without having those technologies? It's pure mathematical formula. Lots of technologies went into iPod, iPad, iPhone, but they didn't have literally any of them. So what's the difference? Where did that difference come from? You can think of many ways that you can license somebody else's technology. You can acquire high-tech startups. We all know. Or you can merge with the high-tech company. Or you can steal somebody else's technology. And of course, you can intentional, steal means intentionally plagiarize, or even unintentionally plagiarize, meaning unintentionally steal somebody else's technology. And there may be some other options. So I looked at their acquisition money, and they really didn't acquire anything significant. They didn't merge with any company. They didn't spend so much money in R&D on their own, you can see it. And they didn't even spend much money on licensing. So where did that technology come from? So you can speculate. I don't know the answer, but I can speculate. From lawyers' point of view, I can tell you, they must have stolen a lot of it. Now, whether it's true or not, I have to prove it before I can conclude. But you can speculate. They must have got those technologies from somewhere without paying. Because there's no indication that they paid. So let's look at the legal perspective. A little bit of history. Some probably, well, I don't know whether you know this. There are only two intellectual property protection systems in the world. Did you know this? First, at least in English language, first invent is an American system. And then the rest of the world, including Brazil, of course, belongs to the so-called first file country. Now, the difference between these two is we used to call this common law philosophy, which means Britain, Canada, USA, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, the Philippines, and maybe some other countries. But over the years, all these common British Commonwealth countries, including Britain, have converted to this. I may explain why so. The only country that stayed with the original British common law philosophy is the United States. So today, if you look at the snapshot, US original British system, and then the rest of the world. And how do they differ? Under the first invent system, it seems like common sense. If you apply for a patent in the United States, your patent application will be kept secret. That means nobody can open and read it. Isn't it great? You detail your new idea, and that document will stay secret. Nobody can see it. That's an American system. Nothing is wrong with this. Rest of the world, this is where the problem starts. Under the first file environment, the same way in Japan, in Brazil, you may know more about Brazilian situation. The same logic applies. If you apply for a patent in Brazil, usually within 15 months, 18 months, depending on the country, usually within 18 months, your patent application will be laid off, meaning published. So in Brazil, Japan, China, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Canada, Mexico, you name it. Once you apply for a patent in those countries, your applications get published. Published means what? It goes into public domain, meaning anyone can read your patent application within 18 months of your application. Now, in order to get patent, it takes usually 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Dyson, as you may know, Dyson developed this vortex vacuum cleaner 20 years ago, just got the patent. So it took them almost 20 years to get the patent. But under this international system, including Brazil, your application gets published in 18 months. So Dyson's patent application, you can, you could see it. You could have seen it almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago. Anyway, because it gets published, anyone can read it. That's the point. Now, 30 years ago, when I became a lawyer, in order to see working for a company called NEC, I wanted to see, let's say, Toshiba, which is next train station away from where NEC was. It's close. So I want to learn, I want to at least I want to learn what Toshiba is up to technologically. So what I would have to do is to go to Tokyo's patent office, and then look at the actual filing file, and then go to Toshiba, and then you can page through. And then if you want to see certain technologies that Toshiba was working on, then I can identify the code number, and I can ask for a copy. That's how it worked. Today, 30 years later, what do? We have something called PDF. You sign up with the local patent office. It may cost you US dollar wise $100 or 400 hairs. And then what happens? You sign up. Now you can scroll all patent applications of any company. And then you can key in, focus on certain patent application and download them, PDF file. So the point is learning somebody else's technology before that somebody else gets a patent. You can read their patent application. So what does that mean to us? We used to use the term corporate espionage. You literally send some bad guys or good guys for us into competitors' building and steal documents. That's corporate espionage. And today, corporate espionage means just go online and then look up somebody else's patent application. Of course, it's at least 18-month-old application before they get the patent. So what I'm trying to say is under this system, meaning around the world except the United States, you can read anyone else's patent application. That means you can learn anyone else's knowledge so easily. And then reality is, look at American firms. American firms do business in Canada and Mexico as part of NAFTA, at least. So now chances are, and almost all American companies apply for patents in Canada. Canada belongs to this, meaning if IBM applies for patents in Canada, Canadian government publishes IBM's patent applications. So you can read American patent applications, not in the US, but in Canada. So knowledge is already, what do you call it, wide open in public domain. And so when Obama was president, actually on March 18, 2013, Obama gave up on this first invent American system. Nobody uses it, and it's not worth anything. So let's move to first to file. So today, officially on the book, we have the universal patent system. But America is unique, different from any other countries in many ways. America converted to metric measurement system in 1974. Did you know? And what the heck are they using? Still pounds and ounces, old British system. So what I'm alluding to from lawyer's point of view, yes, legally we converted to first to file, but mentally we stay with pounds and ounces. Okay, so philosophically, operationally, Americans still cling on to this, even though legally, allegedly, we converted to this. So from legal point of view, the conclusion I can make is learning or stealing, copying, imitating somebody else's technology has become virtually free. Well, it costs you $100, but other than that, it's pretty much free. You don't need to do corporate espionage. Okay. With that understanding, let's think about what actually these people said. Steve Jobs, who passed away unfortunately, in 1994, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. That's his own word. Actually, the first person who said this is not Steve Jobs, what's his name? Picasso. Basically, he loved what Picasso said, and he said, yes, I steal. He said, I steal. And that's exactly what he had done. Now, because Steve Jobs tried to steal, if you're a competitor, you don't want your thing stolen. So this is Albert Einstein. He said, secret to creativity, let's call it competitiveness, is knowing how to hide your sources. Okay, you as a competitor, you try to hide your knowledge from being stolen. And Steve Jobs tried to steal it. So that's a competitive process. I have the technology, you try to steal, and I don't want you to steal it. And legally speaking, another reality, legal perspective. today, technology life cycle, I mean, really the true value of new technology is about 2 years. Beyond that, it's technically obsolete. New technologies will overtake the previous version of the technology. So the product technology life cycle is no more than 1-2 years. So even though you may have a patent for 18 years, your real value of technology lasts only 2 years. Now, so what really happens is, let's say Apple stole your technology. You didn't know Apple was using your technology in the product. You don't see it, it's inside. And a few years later, you realize, oh man, this company, I mean, Steve Jobs stole my precious technology 3 years later. So you go mad, you try to file a lawsuit against Apple, which costs you a lot of money. But anyway, you try to sue Apple. And trying to sue Apple doesn't mean you can sue the company. You have to go to the judge, local court, and ask your case to be filed. Then lawsuit takes place. And the judge will look at your case and say, yeah, it looks like Apple may have stolen your idea, but nobody's using this technology anymore. It's obsolete. You get that, my point of view? The court will say, we're not going to take up a case on anything that doesn't mean any future value. So it's obsolete. I'm sorry, we're not going to take it. So if that's the situation, who benefited the most? Apple, who stole it, or somebody who tried to sue Apple? So clearly Apple could get away without having any lawsuits against it. So that's more of a reality today. So Steve Jobs allegedly, well, clearly stated, great artist, which he was, great artist still. And anyway, so many of you are in business academia, so I'm sure you, without naming, well, actually I can name. I'm using David Peace's appropriability argument, if you are familiar with it. And I don't like his terminology. He was not good at coming up with simple words. So let me translate what he wanted to say. He said the first one is appropriability regime, simply meaning legal protection. If legal protection, like patent, gives you the ability to keep your thing to yourself from being imitated, just like Albert Einstein said, if you can keep it to yourself, it's great. And according to TC's argument, second way to capture competitive advantage is to create dominant design. Simply stated, if you can make your thing kind of international standard, everybody has to use it, so you can collect royalties every time somebody uses your thing. It could be Google search engine, could be Windows software. So every time somebody uses, or since many people use it, you can collect royalties from large number of people. So that may be another way, according to David Peace. And third one, he said complementary assets. Now, it's confusing word. What the heck is it? It's simply stated your ability to mass produce, mass market faster than imitators catching up. The imitators always try to steal your idea anyway. So you're bound to get stolen. Your idea is bound to get stolen. Before it gets stolen, you better use it fast. That's what David Peace called complementary asset. Again, it doesn't mean any veil. In my term, it's simply mass producing, mass marketing, mass distributing your product before you get stolen. So those are three means to capture the value of your technology. But as I said, from legal point of view, legal protection is virtually meaningless today. It's not a good way. You apply for a patent just for the heck of it, but don't expect monopoly coming from it. It won't. But then why not? You may be better off not applying. This is where the problem is. Under first fire, if you didn't apply, you will never get any patent protection. Only if you applied, you could get a patent protection. Right? That's what falsified means. So if you didn't apply, yes, you can keep it secret to yourself. But reality is, what if somebody else stole your idea and applied for a patent? And you claim it's mine, but the court said they applied. I'm sorry, you can't do anything. I mean, you can sue, but nothing much happens in real life, so that the applicant will get the benefit. So as a result, it's a catch-22. If you didn't apply, you can keep it secret, but you could lose it. If you lost it, there's no legal recourse. So you better off apply. So you end up applying. And if you end up applying, 60 months, 18 months later, your knowledge gets published. So either way, you're not going to monopolize your technology no matter what you do. So the legal protection is virtually useless. If I qualify outside of pharmaceutical industry, for pharmaceutical patent, if I look into patent issue, when we casually say patent, like electronic patents, patents protect the process of making the end product, just the process. So this is if somebody came up with Windows program, you can't copy the actual process to generate how Windows works. But you can, because process is protected. But I'm sure there are so many ways to produce this window-looking thing. They are okay. So patent system simply protects the process of arriving at the solution or conclusion or the product. Patent doesn't protect the end product, just the process. But for pharmaceutical products, the pharmaceutical patent protects both process and end product. So technically, if somebody came up with AIDS medicine, then the process of coming up with that drug is protected, and the medicine itself, chemical composition of that drug, is legally protected. Even though we know Indian companies and some Brazilian companies just copy the end product, but that's not going to. So anyway, patents are practically useless. So theoretically, if I use TC's argument, we have only two things left. International standard. But how do we make your thing international standard? Just please, please, please? Then you better be singing Beatles, please, please me. It doesn't work that way. Reality is, by mass producing, mass distributing Windows software, so on and so forth, hopefully many people use it, then it becomes dominant design. So if you look at causal relationship, it's from this to this. So if I make use of TC's fundamental argument he made in 1976, it's an old argument, really it points toward the simple fact. We have to outmaneuver imitators, meaning we have to do fast. We have to use our technology knowledge faster than imitators catching up or stealing our ideas. Hopefully, a lot of people use it, then we can piggyback other services on this to make money. And why Google search engine was free, before that Yahoo engine was free, why what do you call it, browser to access the internet were free. It's the same logic. Because it's free, it gets mass distributed. Everybody was hoping their system will become dominant. And that once they become dominant, if you're good enough, if you're creative enough, you have means to make money on it. Unfortunately, the original browser, so-called Netscape, couldn't come up with a way to make money on Netscape. So Netscape is still around, different name, but they failed in making money. Yahoo was very creative. Yahoo search engine before Google. And immediately after they started offering garage sale site, dating site, all these sites to make money. So that's how many companies make money. Anyway, so what's the next? So based on this, the point is technology gets diffused so quickly. It's a nice word. Gets stolen so quickly. It gets imitated, it gets copied. So you're bound to lose. You know it. So the question is, should we invest so much money in developing our technology? Nothing is wrong doing so as long as you can use it fast. Am I correct? If you didn't use it fast, somebody else will steal it anyway. Or reverse it. If you didn't invest, like Apple, if you didn't invest much in research and development, basically knowledge, technology, great ideas are floating. Am I correct? And you pick and choose fast, and use them fast, and worry about lawsuit later, because courts will probably never take up on it. So ways to build competitive advantage. Classical way, Michael Porter's era, we believe we should develop technologies in-house. And the more technologies you have, more monopolistic power you develop, and therefore more monopolistic profit, meaning competitive advantage you could have. But let's add, in today's situation, you have to use your knowledge fast. And why Japanese, so high-tech companies out of Japan aren't doing well? Well, you can speculate. They're still investing in R&D, developing new technologies, but they don't have fast enough means to use their own technologies, only to be either stolen or only to be copied, or technologies just becoming obsolete for nothing. They're sitting on their shelf, and 2 years later, even though they own it, it's obsolete. Or if it's a good idea, somebody else may have used it. And many of you, I know many of you have iPhone. Not all of you, just many of you. If you look at iPhone's camera, it's getting better, isn't it? Whose technology is it? Cybershot. It's basically Cybershot. The processing, the computer mechanism behind it, and lens, it's basically Cybershot. So if you think Cybershot is a great digital camera, you have it on your Apple. Now, I don't know whether they stole that from us, but they currently have licensing agreement. But in any case, if you develop things in-house, you have to use it fast. Then the question is, like Sony, can they? Can you? Even Apple. To me, Apple seems to be in trouble now, because it became so high-tech, they have so much technology, and they don't know how to use all of it as quickly as they used to. In the past, they didn't have any. Knowledge is floating. It's easy to pick and choose whatever they want. So one research you can generate out of this is more high-tech you become. Working for NEC, I can tell you one thing. 1990 was ranked number 2 in the world technology. Amazing company. Yeah, it was amazing company. So much technology, but commercially, nothing much was going on. And the reason was technology people develop their own technology. They're more interested in developing new technology. They didn't pay attention to what companies needed. They didn't think about marketing side. What kind of technologies are needed to help the company? That's not how engineers think, unfortunately. So engineers are more interested in piling up just like academics are interested in piling up your CV with publications. They are equally interested in piling up their CVs with patent, not patent application, actual patent, the same thing. So probably it's an institutional issue, how to manage technology side and marketing side. And that could be an interesting research area. Another thing I felt just working for NEC, if you have a lot of technologies in-house, executives feel obligated to use their technology. So that would constrain what they can do. If you didn't have it, you're free. Apple, for example, going back to Apple, if you look at your Apple smartphone, the Apple logo on the backside of your phone, it shines. Light penetrates through. Now, that's actually a miracle. Well, Steve Jobs wanted this Apple logo to be made of metal. Metal, by nature, doesn't emit light, but it's a metal, light comes out of it. How could it be possible? But he wanted to find a company that could do it. That's how he wanted. He just wanted it. He just wanted metal, shiny material that emits light. And theoretically, whatever you say, it's not possible. But damn it, I want it. Find someone who can. And lo and behold, he found a small company in Nagano, Japan, that makes that thing. If metal doesn't emit light, there are so many holes, invisible, small holes on the thin metal. That's why light comes up. But even making so many small holes, even water doesn't go in. H2O molecule doesn't go in. It was very difficult thing to make. But anyway, he found a company that can in Nagano, Japan. And that's how he collected all these good things. Another thing, Apple smartphone is like a smooth curve. It looks easy, but there was only one company in the world that could make curved, nicely smooth metal casing in Japan. So amazingly, somebody said something like, if you count the number of technologies or patent knowledge item that went into it, somebody said 90% of all the technological ideas or items that went into iPhone are from Japan. But the point is, Japanese didn't benefit from any of them. They may have made some money, but even Sony didn't make much money by selling CyberShop system to Apple. So the question is, can we do it? So that's a fundamental research question. And of course, if you can license somebody else's technology to acquire or use somebody else's technology, but it costs you. Of course, as I said, you can acquire high-tech startups to address your strength. Or from legal perspective, from intellectual patent system. You can learn, imitate, if you don't like to intentionally. This is a serious issue. If you had a will to steal to use somebody else's knowledge without paying, and if you did it, that's criminal act. Will and deed, that constitutes criminal act. If you did it without having intention to steal it, that's civil act. So you can still sue, but you don't have to go to jail. Okay. So accidental plagiarism is you end up using somebody else's knowledge without really realizing. So if you prove yourself, I didn't mean to steal it, then at least you get fined, but you don't have to go to jail because civil laws. So either way, regardless, you can learn, imitate, accidentally plagiarize, or intentionally plagiarize too. Or it relates to my research work, sourcing, instead of insourcing, outsourcing. Like Apple did. Apple doesn't have any manufacturing operation. They don't. Well, now they invest a lot in R&D, but previously they didn't. So in a way, it's a great. doing nothing is actually great because from financial point of view, your fixed investment is so low. Somebody called that type of company, well, outsourcing company or factory-less company or asset-light, meaning if you have low fixed investment, your break-even point is low. So you're more likely to be able to generate real profit. That's another financial viewpoint, cost accounting viewpoint. Regardless of what you say, asset light can be actually great in today's world. And then once you see it that way, Apple is not necessarily the new asset light factory-less company. Previous time we had Nike shoes company, and more recently from Japan, new companies like what is that company? Uniqlo.
Yeah.
Uniqlo doesn't have any manufacturing operation. They don't have any technology to speak of, but they sell some of the most high-tech cloth called heat thin, but it keeps your body heat from escaping. And it's not even their own technology. Well, they call it heat tech, but technology comes from Toray, another Japanese company. So if you peel off Uniqlo, they have nothing. They don't manufacture. They don't invest in R&D. All they have is retail store. And yet they are able to manage quality, distribution, just-in-time production. How do they do it? And I don't have the answer, but that could be future research. How could those asset-light companies, including Apple, manage to stay profitable, maintain, manage supply chain, which is always difficult? And if you use traditional theory, transaction cost theory or resource-based view, all these theories assume if you have something asset-specific, you should control, meaning you should own. And so ownership has been the fundamental assumption in our business theory building. But what's happening today with Apple and previous time Nike and more recently Uniqlo, and there are many more companies asset-like factory that been doing successful business without owning anything. And how do they do that? And I don't have the answer. An interesting future research. I'll stop right here.
Mike, I have one question. We are working in a paper with colleagues from another university on new product development, and we are just analyzing how firms are, in our results, we find that firms are outsourcing the development of their main product, which is quite risky if you think about a resource-based view, a perspective, for example, because you are not controlling your main asset, your main capabilities, main resources. So how do you see that? Because you were talking about it, and you said you don't have any answer, but do you think that the governance mechanisms that firms have developed so far help them to survive and strive?
I think we have to go back and looking at the existing old theories, whether it's TCA, resource-based view. I think we have to question the assumptions for their theory. TCA, when Oliver Williamson wrote a big book in 1985, for which he got Nobel Prize, somewhere along the way, he used this expression. A fundamental assumption for TCA is people act in guile. That's how he phrased it, meaning people cheat you. Because your suppliers cheat you, we have to protect against that opportunity. But today we use the word opportunity by controlling, in other words, by owning. So that's how theory evolved. So you have to ask yourself, opportunism or people acting guile. Do we, meaning just living everyday life. What he's saying is that we can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
But is it true? Don't you trust some people at least? I mean, reality. So clearly something is wrong with the assumption. And if you ask people acting guy, people cheat you, or people take advantage of you, particularly if you say so to Japanese, no, we trust people. So clearly something is wrong with the assumption. So don't simply look at superficial TCA argument. In order for that theory to be valid, assumptions have to hold. And to me, the assumptions seem wrong. Now, then what's a new theory? That's a question. I'm not smart enough to come up with a new theory, but I love using somebody else's theory. But somebody else's theory probably you don't think about today.
Yeah.
What's his name? I even forgot his name. Austrian economist. Sounds somebody. Economist from Austria. Hayek. I started reading Hayek's work today. I mean, because it's beautiful. It's complex book. But Hayek basically said, again, his assumption seems to be more true today. His assumption for his argument is proprietary knowledge. That means patents, technology is so dispersed. Nobody can control anything. So that's his assumption. And so he called property rights are so dispersed. I mean, nobody owns so many things, so nobody can come up with any new product on his or her own. You have to use somebody else's technology to come up with package new product. And he said, because if knowledge is so dispersed, property rights in his time are so dispersed, in order for you to use your own knowledge, which is small part of the whole, the only way you can get any benefit is to work with other people who have different knowledge, but combining them, we could have something meaningful. So basically, he's arguing you have to trust other partners. So naturally, the trusting relationship, if knowledge is so dispersed, trusting relationship naturally occurs. That's his assumption. And I believe that is more true. If you can't do everything by yourself, you have to work with other people with different knowledge. Collectively, we can develop something meaningful. And do you think they're feeling the same way? Their knowledge is useless on their own unless they work with me. And given that situation, do you think I will cheat on them or they will cheat on me? So that TCA assumption. To me, his view of the world, natural trust exists. That's what I see it. So you may want to go back and look at Hayek's work.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that we have, I would like to make a question. First of all, thank you.
Well,
We
thank you.
really enjoyed your presentation. And I would like to move to a different level, government investment. When we look at the digital economy, industry 4.0, the US investment, Chinese investment, German investment, they are all very high. And because they are really thinking that they want to be dominant countries in the world. But when I think at all the things that you suggested at the firm level, I believe that we can have hope for the other emerging countries because so you have to think about in the country's innovation ecosystem and the firm's innovation ecosystem. I don't know. What do you think about it?
As I said, when I started talking about this subject, the first government actually think tank that invited me was Taiwan in Taipei. And I spoke on basically the same thing. Data was somewhat outdated back then. So my conclusion is, well, actually at government level, Taiwanese government was really interested in encouraging their companies to invest in R&D, and also they are interested in what's called subsidizing companies' R&D, so to collectively to increase investment. And then they, when I made this presentation, they took it to me, instead of investing in R&D, probably creating some sort of institute of people to look up patent applications from all around the world, and then show those documents to relevant companies instead of investing in physical R&D. So the helping to collect knowledge floating around in the world in an organized way, and then share those knowledge bases with companies. That may be a better way. So, and I believe it. The knowledge is floating around, as I mentioned, and it's easy to copy, easy to learn. I'm not saying you should steal it, but the reality is, if you have 1,000 documented bits and pieces of high technology, and you come up with new ideas, then do you remember whose technology you're using? You forget. We forget. You academic, you write articles, you write every single word carefully, but do you know where some of the concepts, some of the expressions come from? You have no idea. You think it's yours, and somebody said, no, this paragraph looks like mine. It happens. It's the same thing. So really, that's the kind of world we live in. I think you have to look at it this way. I published another paper on how Chinese, Indian, emerging firms build their competitive advantage chronologically, and it's consistently true. I mean, not all the cases, but most of the time, they build their monopolistic, a large domestic sales base. So they have become cash rich at home. So emerging firms from China and India, that logic does not apply to small emerging countries like in Asia, Brunei. Too small to have a large sales volume domestically. But anyway, Chinese and Indians generated so much money at home. And then with that money, they, looking at the strategy chronologically, they did two things. One is to try to sell whatever they are selling in their own country in a niche market. Not going after a big market, but niche market, to experience life in the USA, marketing in the USA. At least they learn some of the difficulties or easiness of doing business in countries like the USA. That's one side. And the other side is money can buy technology. So they acquire or acquire existing high-tech startups in the USA. If I use Lenovo as an example, Lenovo used to be called Legend before, and Legend was a supplier, OEM supplier of IBM machine. So IBM contracted assembly to Legend, and Legend was assembling it. But over time, they learned how to better package things and so on and so forth. So they started engineering IBM machine, and eventually they designed IBM machines. And IBM wasn't doing anything other than putting brand name IBM, and they're making so much more money than Legend, and now Lenovo. And Lenovo didn't like that arrangement, so they decided to acquire a PC division of IBM. So if you go to IBM headquarters today in Vermont, New York, same building, half side Lenovo, half side IBM. It's nothing changed, including people. Yes. The people who used to work for IBM are now Lenovo employees. Nothing changed. But the key is not only acquiring, learning and acquiring technology, but also acquiring distribution channel. To Lenovo, most important thing was not just acquiring IBM name. They stopped using it anyway. Acquiring distribution channel to capture easy outlet for their product. So if you look at it, Chinese and Indian, trying out some niche marketing in developed countries to learn, and then with their domestic cash-rich position, they acquire technologies and eventually acquiring the whole company, meaning distribution channels. And then that completes the whole story. They didn't have anything but other than money. So if you remember Beatles song, "Can't Buy Me Love." I mean, money cannot buy me love. And Chinese taught us, money can buy me love. But I love them.
Okay.
So that's where I see it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And it was a wonderful presentation and we learned a lot. Unfortunately, I think that we run out of time and people will have some classes now and we'll have to stop. Otherwise, I think that we could keep.
Well, again,